Winter fashion is already a crime, but some people pushed it so far that entire governments stepped in like, absolutely not. Take that off immediately. When officials start banning outfits for public safety and dignity, you know things are about to get much dumber from here. 1. Watching a man strut through a frozen downtown in a full-body suit made entirely of reflective emergency blankets is already a spectacle. But the true magic begins when the city bans it, because drivers kept mistaking him for a collapsing UFO every time headlights hit him. The outfit crinkled like a bag of angry chips and shimmered like an amateur disco ball, meaning every pedestrian crossing turned into an accidental light show. Authorities claimed it posed a public hazard, which is bureaucratic code for "we do not have the budget to explain this to tourists anymore." The wearer defended it as an advanced heat retention strategy, though it mostly made him look like someone who fell asleep in a craft drawer and woke up laminated. The ban wasn't about fashion, safety, or dignity. It was the local government quietly admitting that dealing with one human lighthouse was already too much administrative chaos for the entire winter season. 2. A small mountain town faced its darkest hour when one resident decided that winter was the perfect time to debut his homemade fur Speedo, a garment that combined the modesty of a postage stamp with the aesthetics of a taxidermy accident. The man insisted it was traditional Nordic wear, which felt generous, considering no known Nordic culture has ever voluntarily put mink in that position. The town council swiftly banned the garment, citing both public decency standards and unresolved ethical questions regarding the fur's emotional state. The stories spread faster than frostbite. Families fleeing the town square, skiers losing control at the mere sight, one elderly resident reportedly dropping a full bag of groceries because her brain simply shut down in self-defense. This wasn't fashion. It was an attack on visual stability, and the ban was less a regulation and more a collective attempt to salvage the last shreds of the community's psychological winter endurance. 3. A suburban neighborhood went full totalitarian after a teenager decided to handle negative temperatures with nothing but beach attire and unwavering confidence, transforming every snow-covered sidewalk into a live reenactment of summer break gone feral. The kid marched past bundled residents like a walking Instagram comment section, chaotic, unnecessary, and aggressively unbothered. Parents panicked, convinced impressionable children would follow suit and turn the entire town into a polar-themed Darwin Award. Officials cracked, declaring a ban on warm-season clothing worn during meteorologically inappropriate conditions, which is a long-winded government way of saying, if we can see your knees when it's snowing, you're fined. The teenager's response was to point out that cold weather is merely a state of mind right before slipping on black ice and providing the physics department with new material. The ban wasn't about safety. It was an exhausted town choosing legal force over enduring another episode of spontaneous seasonal denial. 4. A ski lodge once had to outlaw a guest's inflatable winter coat, a device that puffed up like an emergency airbag the moment the temperature dropped below freezing. In theory, it was wearable insulation. In practice, it was a portable demolition device. Each cold gust triggered a rapid expansion that sent smaller skiers flying down the mountain in accidental bowling formation. Lodge staff were tired of hearing panicked shrieks followed by the unmistakable sound of inflatable nylon detonating like a birthday balloon under stress. Visitors complained that sharing a lift line with the guy felt like standing next to a parade float with self-esteem issues. After his coat expanded so dramatically that he became temporarily wedged in the cabin doorway, management banned the garment for violating the lodge's unofficial rule of "please don't turn yourself into a weather-activated wrecking ball." Winter clothing should warm you, not achieve temporary blimp certification. 5. A city famously outlawed metal-spiked winter hats after one man misunderstood ice-resistant headwear and turned himself into a walking medieval hazard. The hat's spikes weren't decorative. They were industrial grade, long enough to aerate soil or lightly threaten a moose. He claimed it helped break icicles before they become a problem, though witnesses reported the only danger was him, swinging his head around like a malfunctioning porcupine in a hurry. Pedestrians on narrow sidewalks had to dodge him with the reflexes of action movie stunt coordinators. His greatest crime occurred when he attempted to board a crowded bus, transforming the entryway into an impromptu jousting arena. After several residents described near-decapitation-level close calls, the city imposed a ban, mysteriously labeled as a public safety correction, which is municipal speak for, "We cannot allow one man's hat to create more paperwork than our snowplows. Winter accessories should protect you, not require a mandatory perimeter." 6. A commuter's decision to wear a giant taxidermy-style faux wolf head as winter protection sparked so much chaos that the city banned anything resembling an uncertain predator silhouette. It started innocently. He wanted a warm hood, and apparently subtlety wasn't invited. The head was enormous, complete with snarling fangs and glassy eyes that glinted under streetlights like low-budget horror props. School bus drivers kept reporting student meltdowns. Joggers claimed they achieved new personal bests fleeing from what they believed was a wolf with suspiciously good posture. The final straw came when a wildlife officer tried to tranquilize him during a blizzard, mistaking him for an abnormally chunky apex predator. Officials instituted a ban not because the fashion was offensive, but because the city could no longer justify spending police resources distinguishing residents from oversized woodland nightmares. When winter garments require an ID check to prove you're human, the prohibition basically writes itself. 7. After a trendsetter proudly debuted heated shorts, a battery-powered invention allegedly designed for freedom-loving legs, a town banned them once they realized half the fire department's calls were now dedicated to rescuing people from spontaneous thigh ignition. The shorts featured electrical wiring so unstable they could double as evidence in an arson investigation. Their inventor insisted the technology was safe if users followed instructions, which unfortunately included rules like avoid any moisture and under no circumstances bend at the waist. Witnesses described wearers waddling down snowy sidewalks like unstable robots, each step accompanied by an ominous crackle suggesting a minor explosion was warming up backstage. The ban wasn't rooted in judgment. Everyone respects innovation. But the town drew the line at clothing capable of turning residents into seasonal flash grenades. Winter wear can be cozy, fashionable, or even experimental, but ideally not classified by the fire marshal as combustible optimism. 8. A ski village had to ban a man's full-length scarf after residents complained it behaved less like clothing and more like a rogue python with boundary issues. The scarf stretched nearly 20 feet and trailed behind him like he was leading an incompetent parade. Every gust of wind transformed it into an airborne hazard capable of sweeping children off their feet or causing unsuspecting tourists to briefly consider whether they had been lassoed. Chairlift operators complained it wrapped around machinery with romantic enthusiasm, while fellow skiers described navigating slopes in fear of becoming entangled in what looked like the world's most exhausted party streamer. The wearer defended his creation as dramatic warmth, apparently unaware that it resembled a fabric-based natural disaster. The town banned oversized scarves entirely, mostly because no one wanted to explain to insurance companies how one man's accessory managed to create more casualties than the actual ski conditions. 9. A downtown district banned glitter snowsuits after one influencer decided winter wasn't sparkly enough and turned herself into a mobile reflective hazard visible from orbit. Her suit shed glitter with the force of a malfunctioning confetti cannon, coating sidewalks, storefronts, and at least one unlucky dog who spent a week looking like he belonged on stage at a disco-themed talent show. This wasn't fashion, it was weaponized craft supplies. Environmental authorities stepped in after discovering the glitter trail traveled nearly 2 miles and began interfering with storm drains, effectively turning the sanitation department into a glitter hunting task force. The ban referenced microplastics, but the subtext was much simpler. No one wanted to explain why the city was suddenly shimmering like a mall kiosk exploded. When winter coats require hazmat protocols to clean up after them, the legal system reacts swiftly, mostly for the sake of every janitor's mental health. 10. A resort town outlawed a man's polar bear bikini, an outfit made of synthetic white fur arranged with the same artistic subtlety as a tax form filled out during a panic attack. The man insisted it was empowering and environmentally conscious, but witnesses primarily reported confusion, secondhand embarrassment, and a sudden desire to shield their children's eyes from the sight of a nearly naked adult stomping through snow like a rejected mascot audition. The town council cited family-friendly standards, though rumors circulated that the real issue was the outfit's unfortunate habit of accumulating frost in anatomically distracting locations. Photographs leaked online, causing the tourism board to stage a quiet revolt as they struggled to convince visitors their destination wasn't hosting an annual pageant for deranged yetis. The ban was less a moral stance and more a desperate attempt to ensure their winter marketing didn't require disclaimers about rogue, semi-nude tundra creatures. 11. A commuter's insistence on wearing an enormous heated cape with battery packs sewn into the lining forced transit authorities to ban the garment after it repeatedly set off smoke alarms on buses and trains. The cape wasn't luxurious. It resembled an electric blanket that had given up on life and chosen violence. Each morning, commute turned into a spectator sport, as riders watched plumes of steam rise from the cape like it was preparing for a dramatic stage entrance no one asked for. Engineers warned that the heating elements were arranged in a way that encouraged localized flare-ups, which is a polite technical phrase meaning your outerwear is actively trying to self-immolate. The ban came only after the cape caused an emergency evacuation when a conductor mistook it for a small electrical fire. Winter wear that doubles as performance. Pyrotechnics is rarely compatible with public transportation insurance policies. 12. An ice fisherman once strutted onto a frozen lake wearing platform boots so tall they made him look like winter's least motivated glam rock star, prompting immediate regulatory panic when authorities noticed the boots acted like concentrated pressure points capable of cracking the ice. The fisherman defended them as confidence enhancers, as though height were a critical factor in sub-zero angling success. Meanwhile, fellow fishers reported that sharing the ice with him felt like participating in a high-stakes trust exercise designed by someone who disliked them. Officials banned any winter footwear capable of localized structural compromise, which is bureaucratic shorthand for "please do not punch holes into nature with your fashion experiments." The boots were confiscated, probably to prevent them from resurfacing during a summer festival and causing asphalt damage. Winter apparel is supposed to help you survive the season, not reenact a geological disaster in slow motion. 13. A city park banned a woman's oversized pom-pom hat after birds repeatedly attempted to steal it, triggering chaotic aerial battles above the sledding hill that left children traumatized and at least one eagle deeply confused. The pom-pom was absurdly large, roughly the size of a basketball, and apparently irresistible to every feathered creature within a 3-mile radius. Witnesses described scenes resembling a low-budget nature documentary where the props fought back. Joggers ducked as dive-bombing birds mistook the pom-pom for either food, a rival, or possibly an insult. Park officials issued a ban after realizing they couldn't justify additional signage reading, "Protect your head from aggressive wildlife." No winter accessory should have its own fan club in the animal kingdom. And once your hat sparks interspecies conflict, you've crossed the threshold where fashion ends and wildlife management begins. 14. A mountain resort banned mirrored ski goggles with full-face reflective plating after snowboarders started treating them like portable funhouse mirrors, causing pileups as people stopped mid-slope to admire distorted versions of themselves. The goggles wearer argued they improved visibility, though bystanders claimed they mostly projected sunlight into innocent retinas like a weaponized compact mirror. Ski instructors complained the glare was so intense it temporarily blinded children, who then careened downhill with the momentum of confused baby goats. The resort finally intervened after a ski patrol member mistook the wearer for some kind of futuristic winter cyborg and panicked. The ban wasn't motivated by technological fear, it was practical exhaustion. When a single accessory blinds half the mountain and redirects more sunlight than a solar farm, management eventually decides winter sports are dangerous enough without reflective face armor, encouraging spontaneous photonic assault. 15. A downtown district banned tactical balaclavas with built-in LED facial expressions after residents complained the glowing digital smiles, frowns, and winks turned nighttime sidewalks into uncanny valley parades, worthy of psychological evaluation. The balaclava wearer defended it as a tool for emotional transparency, though pedestrians described the effect as being stalked by an overenthusiastic Halloween decoration with unresolved social boundaries. The LEDs flickered in the cold, producing unsettling half-expressions that made the wearer look like a malfunctioning robot auditioning for a dystopian sitcom. One incident involved the balaclava looping through rapid blinking faces during a snowstorm, causing a passerby to slip in panic. Authorities stepped in with a ban, not because they hated creativity, but because they were tired of fielding reports that a glowing face chased me home. Winter fashion can be expressive, but once your mask requires software updates, the city tends to reconsider its tolerance levels. 16. A mountain town finally banned a man's full-body icicle suit after officials observed that he shed frozen shards everywhere he walked like a malfunctioning Elsa who skipped rehearsals. The idea, according to him, was passive cooling, which is an interesting way to describe turning yourself into a walking stalactite farm. Residents complained that his morning walks created small, glittering minefields on the sidewalks, forcing joggers to navigate the area with the grace of deer avoiding holiday traffic. Kids tried collecting the fallen icicles until one parent pointed out they might technically count as biohazardous winter dandruff. The final straw came when he entered a grocery store and immediately turned the produce section into a slippery reenactment of the Ice Age. The city banned the suit on the grounds of excessive environmental shedding, which is bureaucratic language for "we are tired of rescuing people from the world's coldest home alone trap." 17. Local transit authorities famously outlawed a woman's battery-powered heated earmuffs after discovering they emitted a low, ominous hum that passengers interpreted as the prelude to a small supernatural event. The earmuffs weren't cute. They were large, bulbous, and glowed faintly in the cold like alien spores trying their best to blend in. Commuters reported headaches, dizziness, and one dramatic claim of telepathic interference, though that particular passenger also insisted pigeons were spying on him, so credibility was already on thin ice. When the earmuffs began interfering with the bus radio system, causing dispatch to receive garbled transmissions that sounded eerily like microwave ovens pleading for help, officials stepped in. The wearer insisted they were perfectly safe, right before one muff overheated and started smoking like a disgraced cartoon character. The ban wasn't about fashion. It was about preventing public transport from being held hostage by rogue accessories with questionable electrical ambitions. 18. A frozen lakeside community banned neon-lit winter boots after ice fishers complained the shoreline looked like a rave hosted by footwear that had recently gained sentience. The boots came with customizable LED patterns, which would have been tolerable if users chose normal colors. But instead, they favored seizure-inducing rainbow strobes that made the lake surface flicker like an 80s music video filmed during a power surge. Wildlife officers panicked when migrating geese began circling the area, seemingly convinced the lake was sending distress signals. One fisherman blamed the lights for scaring fish into deeper water. Another blamed them for his sudden existential crisis after watching a teenager's boots flash LOL across the ice mid-snowstorm. Officials issued a ban to restore environmental tranquility, which is a polite policy phrase for "the boots are ruining winter and no one can sleep anymore." If your shoes can disrupt bird flight patterns, the law tends to intervene. 19. A city outlawed faux fur trench coats so oversized they created their own wind resistance, after one coat in particular caught a gust and nearly lifted its wearer off the sidewalk like a reluctant Mary Poppins trapped in a Bigfoot documentary. The coat was enormous, shaggy, and looked less like clothing and more like a department store mascot that had given up on its dreams. Pedestrians claimed they couldn't tell where the person ended and the coat began. And in at least one case, the coat accidentally swept a latte off a cafe table simply because someone turned too quickly. Street crossing signals had to be recalibrated to account for the coat's expanded profile, suggesting the garment was being treated as an unauthorized vehicle. When a police officer reported a roaming shag creature obstructing traffic, the council finally banned all outerwear exceeding a certain surface area. Winter fashion is generous, but not generous enough to require wildlife permits. 20. A small town banned homemade ski masks decorated with taxidermy eyes after officials received too many reports of unsettling face-staring incidents from residents who couldn't decide whether they were looking at a person, a predator, or an avant-garde Halloween exhibit that missed its season. The inventor claimed the eyes added warmth and personality, though most people just felt quietly threatened, as if the mask were judging them with the emotional intensity of a disappointed art teacher. Street cameras had trouble distinguishing the masks from actual wildlife, resulting in several alerts that sent animal control racing downtown to wrangle what they assumed were giant nocturnal rodents. A local bakery reported a significant drop in customers after the wearer entered one morning and startled everyone into dropping their pastries. The ban wasn't about artistic suppression. It was a necessary step to maintain public calm and prevent residents from developing unexpected phobias involving googly-eyed mammals blocking the sidewalk. 21. A ski resort banned a man's windshield helmet, a headpiece featuring a full car windshield glued onto a motorcycle helmet. Once it became clear the contraption functioned less like a safety device and more like a mobilized visibility crisis. From the front, he looked like a traffic accident reenactment wandering the slopes in search of closure. The massive windshield collected frost instantly, meaning he skied half-blind, guided only by stubborn optimism and poor decision-making. Resort staff reported a growing list of complaints: chairlift operators who couldn't angle the bar correctly, snowboarders confused by the reflection of themselves appearing out of nowhere, and one small child who mistook the man for a futuristic snow robot built by someone who failed engineering class. After he collided with a pine tree and the resulting sound echoed through the hills like a cathedral bell in distress, the resort banned any helmet exceeding reasonable automotive dimensions. 22. A lakeside village banned self-inflating winter pants after two unsuspecting cross-country skiers inflated theirs simultaneously and rolled downhill like a pair of runaway marshmallows attempting synchronized escape. The pants were meant to provide emergency cushioning during falls, but in practice, they inflated with the urgency of a fire drill and the subtlety of a parade float. Residents described hearing the activation thwomp from blocks away, followed by muffled shouting and the sound of inflated legs thumping rhythmically against frozen terrain. Rescue teams had to chase the skiers across a frozen field, which reportedly took 20 minutes because the pants bounced efficiently, but the rescuers did not. The ban was enacted not out of cruelty, but because local authorities admitted they couldn't afford to keep retrieving citizens who insisted on turning winter sports into unplanned inflatable obstacle courses. 23. A suburban council banned a man's fleece robe with a 12-foot train after shoppers kept getting trapped beneath it in the grocery store, like unwilling participants in a medieval procession. The robe looked luxurious in theory, but in practice it gathered snow, salt, twigs, and at least one confused cat who reportedly refused to exit until bribed with tuna. The wearer argued it made him feel regal, though most witnesses agreed the overall effect was more wandering wizard who forgot his responsibilities. The train swept items off shelves, erased footprints in a suspicious way, and once got stuck in automatic doors, causing the man to be yanked backward in a dramatic reversal that stunned onlookers. After several customers suffered minor injuries from tripping, the council instituted a length limit on robes, capes, and any fabric appendage capable of ensnaring civilians, proving once again that winter clothing should warm the body, not annex territory. 24. A city banned reflective thermal leggings after joggers complained they created the optical illusion of floating, disembodied limbs sprinting through the snow, as if winter had entered its paranormal phase. The leggings were coated in a metallic finish so bright that early morning sunlight rebounded off them with the intensity of emergency floodlights. Drivers slammed on brakes, convinced some glitch in the simulation had spawned a pair of rogue legs independently training for a marathon. Photographers swore the leggings broke their camera's autofocus, and one cyclist claimed he veered into a hedge after mistaking the wearer for a chrome ghost escaping tax season. Officials argued the leggings posed a traffic disruption risk, which sounds more respectable than admitting they simply scared everyone. When a group of tourists gathered to record what they believed was a supernatural event, the ban moved forward unanimously. 25. A ski town banned feather-lined winter ponchos after it became clear the feathers were escaping with the desperation of employees fleeing a sinking corporate retreat, creating constant blizzards of fluff that coated the streets in layers of stray plumage. Residents complained they could no longer distinguish between actual snowfall and the poncho's emotional breakdown. Tourists collected handfuls of feathers believing they belonged to rare winter birds, forcing park rangers to clarify that no, these were not endangered species shedding due to stress. They were the result of one resident's questionable shopping choices. The poncho also caused visibility issues, as gusts of wind transformed it into a localized snowstorm of molting chaos. When the wearer passed a restaurant patio and several diners accidentally inhaled feathers mid-sentence, the town declared the garment a public respiratory hazard, which is a polite way of saying winter fashion should not behave like shedding wildlife. 26. A cold-weather city banned oversized faux leather hoods shaped like giant raven heads after residents reported being followed by what they assumed were mythical omens forecasting societal collapse. The hoods featured beaks so large they extended into the wearer's peripheral vision, causing them to bump into street signs, lampposts, and at least one very startled mail carrier. Pedestrians filmed blurry videos of the hood wearers and uploaded them online, claiming proof of urban cryptids migrating for winter. Local authorities struggled to keep up with the increasing number of bird-headed humanoid sightings, which put undue strain on the city's already overworked wildlife department. A council meeting finally addressed the issue when a jogger chased a hood wearer for 3 blocks in a misguided attempt to free the trapped creature. The ban wasn't anti-fashion. It was pro-reality, trying to prevent winter from becoming a live-action folklore festival. 27. A town reluctantly banned sequined puffer jackets after emergency crews were blinded during a nighttime rescue when a resident's coat reflected light so intensely it turned the snow-covered hillside into an accidental runway show. The jacket was covered in tens of thousands of sequins, each acting like a tiny solar flare. Whenever the wearer moved, the environment lit up like a disco ball attempting to guide aircraft, causing disoriented hikers to wander in circles. The final incident involved a pair of skiers who mistook the wearer for the Northern Lights having a very off-brand evening. First responders filed official complaints stating they could not assist people while being aggressively sparkled into temporary vision loss. The town's ban cited rescue interference, though the actual subtext was, "Please stop making winter look like Las Vegas auditioned for a weather role." 28. A rural community banned thermal jumpsuits modeled after cow patterns after one too many ranchers attempted to herd the wearers during morning fog, mistaking them for unusually confident cattle. The jumpsuits were meant to be cute. Instead, they caused an entire town to question its eyesight. Drivers slowed down, unsure whether to yield or moo. Ranch dogs became hysterical, trying to decide whether to protect or pursue. The wearer argued the suit improved visibility, though ironically, it achieved the opposite by blending perfectly into actual grazing herds. Matters escalated when a rancher nearly loaded a jumpsuit wearer onto a trailer before realizing the heifer was complaining in English. The ban followed within hours, framed as preventing livestock confusion. An elegant, bureaucratic way of admitting winter fashion should never require debriefings with cattle. 29. A city banned icicle beard kits, plastic frames worn over the face to simulate dramatic frozen whiskers, because the condensation froze into razor-sharp shards that transformed the wearer into a budget ice villain wandering the streets. The kits were marketed as festive, though witnesses described them more as seasonal weaponry, capable of puncturing thin jackets or lightly injuring unsuspecting shoppers. The beard rattled ominously with each step, sending bits of frost flying like tiny winter daggers. One wearer attempted to take a sip of hot chocolate, only for the beard to nearly glue itself to the cup, trapping him in a moment of seasonal humiliation. City officials banned the accessory under the category of unintentional armament, a phrase that captures the general consensus that winter outfits should not require disarmament procedures. 30. A northern town banned faux ice crowns after several residents wore them during a blizzard and snowplow drivers refused to proceed, assuming royalty was on the road and protocol required stopping. The crowns were transparent, jagged, and sparkled under headlights in a way that conveyed both elegance and deep impracticality. Each crown sat several inches high, giving the wearers the misguided confidence of monarchs surveying their frozen kingdom. The trouble began when the crowns accumulated real ice, merging into structures so tall they scraped door frames and caused wearers to duck dramatically just to enter diners. One unfortunate resident slipped while wearing hers, embedding the crown into a snowbank, requiring extraction by passerby, who briefly believed they were rescuing the Winter Queen from a political coup. The ban addressed snow removal interference, but it also subtly suggested that winter doesn't need cosplay-level theatrics. 31. A frozen coastal town banned heated mittens with built-in speakers after users began blasting motivational speeches, EDM remixes, and, in one memorable case, whale sounds at volumes that turned quiet winter mornings into chaotic soundtracks. The mittens were marketed as hands-free entertainment, which was technically true, though no one anticipated walking past someone whose knuckles were broadcasting a TED Talk about resilience while they scraped ice off their windshield. Residents filed complaints that the mitten audio combo created pockets of confusion where joggers couldn't tell if they were hearing distant sirens or poorly mixed techno. A fisherman reported losing his balance when a mitten unexpectedly blasted what sounded like a humpback's mating call, prompting him to believe, briefly and incorrectly, that the ocean was flirting. The ban justified itself under noise pollution, though everyone knew it was really about maintaining the town's sanity in a season already stressful enough without hands that double as malfunctioning DJs. And that's winter fashion at its absolute worst. Drop your pick for the dumbest disaster below, or add one we missed. Like, subscribe, and brace yourself for more stupidity.